So I think what inspired me? So it was at a cosmic consciousness event. It was the first time that I had ever experienced sound. So the cosmic consciousness gatherings, they happened at Griffith Park.
Okay.
And a friend of mine, her name is Jessica. I had connected with her because I was just kind of beginning on this spiritual journey, you could say. And I didn't really know who to ask. I had just had a very beautiful experience and I was looking for answers as to, what I had experienced. And Jessica was a girl in my class. I had never really talked to her, but I noticed that she had all of these tattoos on her arm.
Mm.
And after the experience that I had, I started researching meditation and I started learning more about auras and different esoteric topics. And I saw that she had the flower of life tattooed on her arm. And I don't know, something told me you should connect with her and you should talk to her and ask her and just tell her about what you experienced. And maybe, she'll have the key or maybe she can like guide you
Right.
or, just be a friend. And so when I spoke to her, she said, "Oh, you just had a spiritual experience." And she said, "There's so many more people that are having this similar experiences." And so I started talking to her more, and we started spending more time together. And then eventually, she invited me to this gathering, and I absolutely loved it there.
The cosmic consciousness.
Yes, the
Yeah.
cosmic consciousness events.
Yeah. I remember attending and like a lot of people
A lot
were
of people
there.
were there.
Yeah.
And it was so beautiful. I absolutely loved the energy and the environment that was created.
Mm.
It was the first time that I had ever really gathered with like minded people or with people that were exploring similar topics um, and just diving into spirituality. And everyone was so kind and so loving and so willing to share what they knew. And everyone had something to teach,
Right.
and we could learn something from everyone. And so that was the first time I ever experienced a sound bath. And so it was a collective sound bath. So different sound practitioners all had their bowls there.
Was there anybody that you remember?
Matt was there.
Oh, Matt was already doing that stuff.
Yeah, so Matt was
Ah.
there. A lot of people were there.
Yeah.
Most of the people that are in community healing right now, they were there. And so I remember seeing the bowls and just being fascinated by them. And I
Mm.
remember like thinking to myself, what are those? But I think I asked Matt
Yeah.
because he was just really friendly and I felt
Hmm.
comfortable like going up to him and asking him, like what
He
are
does have
these?
that calm demeanor.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and he was very nice and he explained it to me. And when I experienced the sound bath, I absolutely loved it. I was laying down there and I loved the effect that the different instruments had on my body. And as they were walking around, I could feel the impact of the instruments. Like I could feel my body begin to wake up and just pick up and resonate with the different frequencies and the different sounds. And I could feel my body tingle and I felt like it was really doing something. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I would love to, do this for people one day as well.
Yeah.
But back then, like, it just felt like something that was, just too far off. Like, I didn't really know where to begin.
Yeah. I can imagine that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think I went home and I purchased my first little Tibetan bowl
Yeah.
and that is
Nice.
what I started with. And when I started with that bowl, I was working at a mental health organization at the time, and it was a children's mental health organization. And I was often taking in a lot of referrals and just taking in the stories of the children that were being referred there. And so it was a really heavy job because I had to
Mm.
listen to a lot of stories. And my coworkers, my colleagues there, we were often under a lot of stress.
Yeah.
And we would define it as compassion fatigue. Like when you're taking in so much that you just get to this point where y- you just can't really receive so much because you're always giving, giving, giving. And
Yeah.
so we made it an effort to have self-care Fridays. So every Friday we would have a different self-care activity.
Okay.
And so that was one of the first times I ever led a meditation now that I'm remembering.
Mm.
And so one of the weeks, I had always been talking about, like meditating. That was when I first started meditating. And I was telling everyone, oh, like, meditation is so good. Like, I felt like, there's really something here. Like, we
Yeah.
have to do this, guys. And one of the, one of my coworkers, she said, Patty, why don't you lead a meditation?
Okay.
And I
That's cool.
remember thinking, like, okay, I can do that. But at the same time, I thought, like, who am I to
Yeah.
lead a guided meditation?
Right.
And so the days leading up to that, I was so nervous. And I brought my bowl that day, and I was holding my bowl, and I had everyone in the office just get quiet, close their eyes, and I was playing my bowl and just guiding them with my voice. But inside, I was freaking out,
Of
and
course.
I was just like, this was maybe a few months into when I first started meditating, so it was very new to me.
Yeah.
And I was just, like just holding space for them, and in the end they loved it. And it felt good inside of me to be able to hold that space for other people. And I didn't really do it often after that, because I stopped working there. And that was just one of the catalysts, one of the moments. And now looking back, it's amazing for me to see everything that has kind of evolved since that moment.
Yeah. Unfolding and then
Yeah.
having the courage to step up to the occasion,
Mhm.
regardless of all that noise that happens in the brain, because
Yeah.
that's always going to happen. But
Yeah.
to have the courage to actually maybe organize the thoughts and then facilitate the meditation or the
Mhm.
sound healing
Mhm.
and have that momentum and then jump off of an airplane. Because that's how I met you. Yeah, just jumped off an airplane. And like, those are just things that, like, yeah, we're going to have some fear,
Mhm.
but it's up to us to like decide if we're going to let the fear control us or if we're
Mhm.
going to transmute that fear and make it energy for us to actually do the things that we want to do. Because I've had similar experiences where I wanted to teach meditations and yoga, and I wanted to show people the same thing that I was experiencing.
Mhm.
And so then that thought comes up of, well, who am I?
Mhm.
Or why should people waste their
Mhm.
time? But those are just moments.
Yeah.
And then now look at you.
Yeah, and it's so important to show up.
It's so important
It's
to
so
show up.
important to show up, and I don't know, like it's so important to just show up because someone might need your energy, or someone might need the message that you are conveying and that you are relating, and when you don't show up, it's like you're kind of like taking that gift away from the world,
Right.
because everyone has a message, everyone has something to teach, a story to tell.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how can we allow ourselves to shine and show up so that maybe we can inspire someone else, and maybe if even if it's just one person, like maybe that's the purpose of us being here, so that we can wake up and inspire other people to wake up and to show up and to just keep going, and to I think that's how we evolve as a species,
Right.
and at this point, like, it's no longer like just it's about the future, like where are we headed.
Yeah, the same way we were inspired, right?
Mhm,
Somebody
mhm,
showed up.
mhm,
Somebody showed up and relayed the message and it clicked for us.
mhm,
However it clicked, whatever
mhm,
meditation it was, whatever yoga we did or
mhm.
whatever lecture we listened to, and it clicked, and so we were inspired. And so you're absolutely right, because if we don't show up, then other people won't have that inspiration as well. And one of the biggest things for me, I don't talk about it a lot because I know we're all like, we're all spirit, we're all human, we're all earth, but we also need people that look like us
Representation.
representing,
Yes.
and the older I get, the more I realize, like, whoa, like there's gonna be youngsters, the same way that when I was young and I had my inspirations and the people I looked up to. It's very important, because although we're all humans and we're all from earth and we're all spirit and we all have the same type of blood and all that, um, we all have our own culture
Mhm,
and we all have our own voice.
mhm,
And
mhm,
if somebody has a similar accent as me and they're talking about things that I had no idea other people, were experiencing as well, and I can relate to it, then I don't feel alone,
mhm.
and
Yeah.
that's one of the most important things to me right now in my life right now, where I'm like, wait a second, like, we're here. Like
Mhm. Mhm.
our people now are remembering and learning yoga.
Mhm.
That was not heard of,
Mhm.
right? Because in the 70s, yoga came over here to like the West, specifically here in the West Coast. Um, a lot of different gurus and teachers came from India.
Mhm.
And then now we have like sound healings,
Mhm.
and we weren't really doing that. I feel like our ancestors were doing more like drums and
Mhm.
fires
Mhm. Mhm.
and songs, you know,
Mhm.
canciones, and then flutes and stuff like
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
And so now we have more sound healing stuff where like the bowls and the gongs and stuff like that,
It's a
that
fusion.
it's a fusion. Yeah, even though that's not from necessarily our ancestors, but
Mhm.
now we can take those tools and then pass that on, because that wasn't happening here
Mhm.
before.
Mhm.
And meditations and yoga too, like none of that stuff was being taught. And now I remember when I tried yoga for the first time, I would say maybe about 10 to 12 years ago,
Mhm.
it was still a weird thing for guys to do yoga. It was still a thing where people viewed it as, oh, women are stretching.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Seriously, like
And
that was
especially a Latino male doing yoga.
even that.
Unheard of.
That's another layer of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember going to a Earth Day festival at
Mhm.
at Topanga Center somewhere off
Mhm.
the PCH. And the opening ceremony was yoga, and they
Mhm.
were doing sun salutations.
Mhm.
And I went with a group of friends, and I jumped in to the yoga, and they're like filming it or something like that. And I had no idea what I was doing,
Mhm.
but I just followed it. And ever since, I just connected with yoga
Mhm.
ever since
Mhm.
then. But the point is that like back then it was still kind of a very low key type of thing. And now look at how many teachers are out with all types of yogas,
Mhm.
teaching
Mhm.
yoga all over the place. And it's like, yeah, like I remember one of the first yoga teachers I connected with out here was I forget his teacher's name, but Dre
Mhm.
from Orange County, eighth Chakra Studios.
Okay.
I think Guru Dev or something like
Mhm.
that. Anyway, he looked like me,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
and he talked like me.
Mhm.
And he wasn't just like all clean cut. No, he had tattoos, and you can tell he came from the streets, and you can tell he had been through something.
Mhm.
And that's what I'm talking about, like that representation. Like for some reason, I connected with him more on that level than versus, let's say, maybe um and no disrespect, but like maybe a white lady in her 40s,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
know?
Mhm.
Which, by the way, one of my teachers that inspired me a lot, which was a white lady in her 40s, unfortunately passed away last year.
Oh.
Guda Jagat
Oh
had
yes.
her studio in Venice, and like she was real.
Mhm. Mhm.
She was real. That's why I connected with her, because she kept it
Mhm.
real.
Mhm.
When
I've
she
seen her.
spoke, she knew what was up.
Mhm.
Like she was able to like be so soft, real, humorous,
Mhm.
deep,
Mhm.
all at once. And also I feel like she didn't follow, and this is a big thing for me, like she didn't follow structure too much.
Mhm.
She wasn't in the box too much. And I appreciate that, because some people, you know, too much structure also is not um very good.
Mhm.
At least for me, like I'm a rebel.
It doesn't leave room for
It
creativity,
doesn't leave
you
room
know.
for
And it's
creativity.
always inspiring to connect with someone that has that energy and that
Yeah.
carries that essence, because I feel like part of it also, transmutes to you.
Yeah. And I fucking loved her.
Yeah.
I'm so sad that she passed away. Like when I heard about what had happened to her, I was in shock. And she
Mhm.
was always one of my favorites, just because of how
Yeah.
real she kept it, and
Mhm.
how unique and also how innovative she was.
It really moved an entire community.
Yes.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
was felt.
It was
Mhm.
felt. Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's still felt.
Mhm.
And so, like, to disprove my own point,
Mhm.
I bring her up. But at the same time, when I first began with Dre, I felt that connection too, where I was like,
Mhm.
oh,
Mhm.
okay, like we can have these experiences too.
Yeah.
And we're having these
Yeah.
experiences. Um
And more I'm seeing. people, like step up and show up in that way and create spaces where people that look like us are meditating and
Yeah.
practicing yoga and, doing all of these things. And it's inspiring.
I remember Cosmic Consciousness. One of the first facilitators of the sound bath was Fabian.
Hmm.
And it's funny because I I always remember this conversation with Matt, um, Matt from Community Healing,
Hmm.
and when he was like, "I want to do that," he's like, "I want to get sound bowls and facilitate," and I was like, "Oh, that's cool." And I would tell him like, "I want to teach yoga. I want to like get certified and
Look at
guide
you.
people through." And look at us.
Hmm.
Who would have known?
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? Yeah. Yeah, but I
Yeah.
always remember that conversation with Matt. I think we were in Santa Monica eating sushi,
Hmm.
and he was and Matt inspires me because Matt is very persistent,
Hmm. Hmm.
and he keeps going and he
Hmm.
keeps going. And when
Hmm.
he's into something, he just doesn't stop. And if
And he's so
anything,
kind.
oh yeah, yeah, he's like a soft 6 foot something teddy bear. Um,
No, I really appreciate Matt because when I first started, doing sound healing and really started to get into it, I think I had done a live on Instagram and I wasn't even planning to do this live and he popped in there and he
mm,
was like listening to me talk or just, play with the sound bowls and then he invited me to come out to community healing.
yeah.
And so that's when I started to reconnect more
Ah,
with that community. So
but you
that was
see,
earlier last year.
that's because you showed up,
I know.
and also because Matt showed up,
Mhm.
and then
And
also
he
because
extended out the hand and he was
he
like,
extended out the hand the
"Mhm.
same way that Fabian showed up
Mhm.
and inspired.
Mhm.
And then that, like it's a ripple effect of who you guys are inspiring. And now you guys are
Mhm.
inspiring other people to
Mhm.
show up and facilitate
Mhm.
these very necessary, I think they're tools and medicines, really.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. They're so powerful. I think that yoga and meditation, like going back to what you said earlier, I think before it was looked at, oh, like, it's just girls stretching or it's just people sitting.
Hmm.
But it's a lot more difficult than what it appears to be. Like the amount of concentration and just discipline that it takes to really be able to sit and to do different yoga postures.
It's conscious, subconscious, nervous system,
Mhm.
all, and then body parts, organs, all that's being worked at the same
Everything.
time. Breath
Everything.
work, the lungs, the
Yes.
blood,
Yes. Everything's connected.
everything's all connected. Yeah, I mean
Everything's
that's what yoga
connected.
is, right? Like the
Mhm.
union of
Yeah.
mind and body.
Yeah. When I